Welcome back, everyone. It is day 2 of CIE 407 Grant Writing and Fundraising in Education. I hope that day 1 treated you well, and you should be receiving feedback on the things that you sent me shortly, or within the next 24-hour period. So keep a lookout for that. And in the meantime, let's talk about the second day, day 2 of the course. So again, if you need to check the syllabus, you can always get to a live version here. You're obviously watching the introductory video, which will be placed right here once this is done recording. So let's talk about what the objectives for the day are. There are 3 main objectives. We're going to look at what a needs assessment is and how to conduct one. It's a pretty essential part of doing any sort of grant writing or fundraising. You need to know what the need is. You need to know what you need the money for. So doing that is important, and having that done in a way that is appropriate, rigorous, and valid is important. We're also going to talk a little bit about what a logic model is, and it's a very straightforward process, I think. It makes it logical. It makes it make sense in terms of what you're doing and how you're doing it. So we'll look at what logic models are, and then how to distinguish between outputs and outcomes. It's a little bit of a splitting hairs in terms of the terminology, but it can be important as you're moving forward. So we'll discuss that. So Module 1, Needs Assessment. You're going to be looking at the Chapter 2 in Howlett and Bork called Defining the Need. Again, a very quick 6-page read, but I think it's essential. You'll also be looking at the Statement of Needs section from the Foundation Center's Proposal Writing Short Course Online. And you'll be watching the next 10 minutes of this webinar. Remember, yesterday you just watched up until the 20-minute, 15-second mark. Now you're going to watch an extra approximately 10 minutes up until the 32-minute mark that will talk a little more about grant writing in general and help you think about needs. You're going to be looking specifically at logic models, and this will have something to do with designing the project, which is also your Howlett and Bork anchor model. And I would like to say it that way because these chapters from the Howlett and Bork text really are the anchors for everything that you do, and you should always go back to them. There is then a very lengthy, and I'm going to click on this document from the Kellogg Foundation that you have access to, that is called Logic Model Development Guide. It's a PDF. You're welcome to download it from the Kellogg Foundation. And it is something that we use not just in grant writing, but this is also a document that we use when if you take an evaluation course or you take a strategic planning course. This is sort of an essential part of planning or designing any of these 3 things: grants or funding ideas or proposals, evaluations for projects or programs, and then strategic planning for organizations, institutions, projects, or programs. And it is it will take you through the what and why of logic models. Or what are they and why do we have them? How do we use them? What are the basics and other examples just in Chapter 1? And then in Chapters 2 and 3, it'll walk you a little more closely through the process of actually creating a logic model, giving some exercises and checklists along the way to help you do that as efficiently as possible. So I'm a fan of the Kellogg Foundation document. You'll also be looking at this article called Revisiting the Logic Model. It's from an academic journal on grant writing, and you'll see that it specifically goes to this page because this PDF is the whole issue of this journal, so you don't want to read the whole thing. But what this does is it shows us sort of what are some of the positives and negatives, or pluses and minuses, or what are some critiques for logic models, and what are some ways that we could think about logic models differently from, let's say, just the straightforward here's how you use it functional approach, and thinking about how you can really use the model to address the needs of your organization as well as the stakeholders. So take a look at that. It's again not a very long read, but it will give you some insight and background on what some of the challenges as well as so the problems are, as well as the promises for logic models. Then there is a 13-minute video I'd like for you to take a look at. on logic models and theories of change. It's a program evaluation really approach. But again, remember, this logic model idea is something that we use across these different skill sets. I'm going to ask you to watch a 30-minute video on how to write a grant proposal. This, I hope already by day 2, this video and videos like it are starting to seem familiar. But I want to expose you to as many opportunities to think about how people describe going through the process as I can, so that you get into that mode of thinking as quickly as possible as well. And then we have an interview with someone who actually participated in grant writing, a teacher in particular from this Grant Writing for Teachers online course that we make reference to every once in a while. Short video just to get us thinking about it. And then you'll see that I have in here this thing called Just for Practice. It's not required. You can certainly skip it. But I highly recommend that as you're going from top to bottom in each day, when you run across a Just for Practice, take the few minutes it recommends to think about these things. So I'm recommending when you get to the end of this second module, you take 10 minutes to write down a so that chain for 2 activities your organization or your nonprofit or whatever group it is engages in, and see which items are outputs and which are outcomes or goals. Now the so what chain is something that's discussed in the Howlett and Bork reading, but I want you to not only do the reading but then also walk through these other videos and things so that it's clear what you're doing, when you're doing it, how you're doing it, so that you can move forward as easily as possible. And then module 3 from day 2 is showing your proposed activity is real. And we're going to, in this case, look specifically at this, another article from the Journal of the Grant Professionals Association on moving from outputs to outcomes. This one's specifically related to the public health sector. It's not an education specific one. But the idea is, how do we shift from outcome or outputs to outcomes, and thinking about what that means. And I'd like for you then to take 10 minutes to list the types of work your organization does and practice articulating that work as both outputs and outcomes. This is something that you can do on your own. This is something that you can do that I think will help and will make a lot of sense, and then you'll move forward accordingly. I've also got another article I'm asking you to read from the Journal of Grant Professionals Association called Why Grant Applications Fail. So it's only day 2 and we're already talking about failed grant applications, and I'm not trying to depress you right off the bat here, but I am trying to say that the grant process is a fickle one, and for every 2 or 3 proposals you send out, you might get 1 proposal approved and funded. It's a war of attrition. I say that with a smiling face here, but you need to be aware that there are reasons why grant applications fail, and so recognizing that a lot more fail than that are funded is an important first step just for you as a fundraiser or a grant writer. But also understanding what some of the reasons are, and there are going to be some pretty straightforward reasons as well as some that you might not have heard before. So taking a look at that will be important. And then of course, I'm asking you to go back to the webinar and watch the next 10 minutes or so on grant writing that will be related to this. Right, when you've worked through that content, then I have a couple of application activities that I would like for you to complete by the end of the day today, whatever time zone you're in, and then send to me via email, or if we're meeting face-to-face, you can hand it to me in class if you have it done. I'd like for you to outline a needs assessment plan for the ideas your organization would like to get funded to do. So you can identify information you could gather from your own organization, what experiences or examples from people or organizations might be useful, and then statistics about the problem or opportunity. Having some data right off the bat to show that there is a need is a really persuasive and successful method to use with fundraising and grant writing. And then consider how you might conduct a needs assessment if there were no statistics available. You don't have the opportunity to get quantitative information. How would you use a more qualitative approach to do a needs assessment? All right, so you outline it. Then I would like for you to write a draft statement of need. So you've outlined the needs assessment plan. Now write a draft statement of need for your organization, and be sure to include the following: any statistics or sources of statistics to corroborate the need you hope to address, a logic model for your organization that reflects the need, and a distinction between your organization's needs and the community's needs. Give a description or example of each, preferably. Now you'll note that I don't have any word count here, and it's because this has the opportunity or the potential to be pretty to the point if you want it to be, or you can expand it a little. But remember, the overall idea for writing grant proposals or anything related to fundraising is you want to say as much as possible in as small a space as possible. So you want to make this draft statement of need as succinct and to the point as you possibly can. If you can do all this in a really tight but informative paragraph, great. If you need a page, okay. If you need 2 pages, you're on the outside. You've gone a little far. So think about how you keep this as tight as possible. And then I'd like for you to email your needs assessment outline and your draft statement of need to me by the end of the day. And then, of course, post final comments and or questions at the bottom of the page where it says leave a reply. That's down there. And then you'll move forward, right? Think about the coming days. You are encouraged to look ahead at the following day's activities and especially to prepare for the next day as soon as possible. It's going fast, right? I mean, you're zipping right along, and the way to handle this is to work ahead as much as possible. Get ready for the next day. Don't just go through the first day and then sort of forget about it. Even if you just look over what you're supposed to be doing for the next day, your brain is already mentally preparing then. So do that. Of course, if you have any questions, you can ask each other by typing something into the leave a reply space at the bottom, or you can email me directly and I'll answer you if you have that question. All right, day 2 underway. Looking forward to seeing where you go with it.